So I'm back in my scrapbook room because my kids are home and they're taking over the living room. So it's quiet in here. Hey guys, it's Sarah and I am back from vacation. So as you guys probably know, at the end of May, my family and I went on vacation to Florida. We went to Disney World for 4 days and spent a total of 10 days in Florida visiting family, and we had a blast. It was a really great time, and so we are now home and kind of getting settled and kind of getting back into our normal everyday lives now. So now I am going to go ahead and tell you what I read for the month of May. For the month of May, I read a total of 7 books, and I ended the month in the middle of an 8th book, so I will talk about that at the end here as well. Okay, so most of these books I actually don't have physical copies of, so you're going to be seeing a lot of pictures. Some of them are on my Kindle, some of them are library books. The first book that I read is Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers, and this book I'm actually loaning out to a friend, so I don't have my physical copy on me right now. But this book was amazing. I gave this book 5 stars. It was absolutely incredible. It took me a little while to get through only because I really felt like I wanted to take my time with it. I didn't want to speed my way through it. I really just wanted to take my time and soak it in, and it was absolutely amazing. This is a Christian fiction book, and it is actually a book that is a take on the book of Hosea from the Bible, and it's about a girl who is in the 1850s, and she is a prostitute and kind of fell into that line of work, and then she ends up meeting a man named Michael Hosea, who basically God told him, this is the woman that you're going to marry. She's going to be your wife. You're going to save her from this. And you kind of see him struggle with that because he doesn't really want to do that. He does find himself instantly pretty much in love with her, but at the same time he tries to fight it because he feels like she's too difficult and doesn't know if he can do it. He doesn't know if he's strong enough to do it. So you kind of see them go through this struggle. It was so incredibly good. It really, what, I don't know the words to describe it really, but it was beautiful, and you see so many struggles, and you not really relate to the characters that much, but you empathize with them very much for both of them. Sometimes I wanted to scream and yell at the girl, but at the same time, you know, I got it, but it was still sometimes frustrating when she wasn't doing what I wanted her to do. The only thing that really bothered me about this book is that Michael had a lot of different names for her, because when she meets him, she doesn't even tell him her real name, and he knows that it's not her real name, so he kind of refuses to call her by the name that she goes by. So it's really interesting, but at the same time it kind of bothered me because every other sentence he's calling her a different name. So I don't know, that's kind of weird. But other than that, this book was absolutely amazing. It has easily made it into one of my top 10 books of all time that I've absolutely just loved, and I know I will reread it again in the future. The next book I read is called Fallen Angel. This is written by David Lamore. This is a debut novel, and the author was kind enough to send me a copy to do an honest review for it. I did do a review for it, so I will leave a link down in the comments below if you want to see all of my thoughts on this book. Overall, I really loved it. I gave it 4 stars. It gave me a very strong Twilight vibe. It is a paranormal YA, kind of a romance type. It is about a girl who is forced to move to a very small town from New York, and she does not want to be there. She ends up falling for a boy who ends up being a demon. There is a love triangle, which I liked the love triangle. It made sense. I don't always love triangles, love them, but at the same time, if they make sense, then I'm good with them, and this one made sense. So you follow this girl, Evelyn, and she's kind of dealing with the fact that actually demons really exist, demons and angels, and you are seeing her being introduced to this world and how she becomes a part of it and why she's so important to it. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. So 4 stars. And if you want to see more in-depth thoughts about this book, then go ahead and click the link to my review below. The next 3 books I read, I did as part of the Book Buddy-a-thon, which was a readathon that was hosted, and my buddy was Whitney. And I ended up reading 3 books for the week. The first one was A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, and this is a book that I got from the library. I really enjoyed this book. This was the first book by Patrick Ness that I've ever read, and It was very, very good. It was fairly short and it was a middle grade novel, but it had a lot of really beautiful illustrations in it as well. And this book is actually being turned into a movie, which is really exciting. I'm excited to watch it when it does come out. But it is about a young boy who is dealing with the fact that his mother has cancer, and he has a very unique way of dealing with it. So you kind of follow him through that journey. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it, because I went into it a little bit blind. I did not know anything about his mom or the sickness or anything. I just knew that it involved a boy and a monster, and I wasn't sure how. So I think that's kind of the best way to go into it if you haven't read it. But I really, really loved it, and I gave it 5 stars. The next book that I read is The Elite by Kara Cass. This is the second book in the Selection series, and I really, really enjoyed this one. This one I gave 4 stars. The first one I gave 5 stars because I just absolutely could not put it down. The Elite, I actually, I read it in one day as well. Not one sitting, but like over the course of the entire day, I read the book. And I really enjoyed it as well. The only thing that really bothered me about this one was America. She drove me nuts in this book, which is interesting because I really liked her in the first one. And I've heard other people complain that they don't like her character. And I understand with the second book because she was so extremely selfish in this book. And she was really just looking out for number one and not thinking about anyone else in her life. And that kind of drove me nuts. And she jumped to a lot of conclusions and didn't listen to anyone's explanations, didn't give anyone a chance to explain anything. Drove me nuts. But at the same time, I really liked the book. So at the end of the selection, I was definitely on Team Maxon. There's a big love triangle in this series as well. And yeah, still Team Maxon on the second one as well. I absolutely adore him. I think he is a great character. And yeah, so 4 stars. The next book I read for the Book Buddy-a-thon is A History of Love by Nicole Krauss. This is the book that Whitney and I both read together. It was our buddy read. And this one, I didn't love it. I gave this one 3 stars. And it's funny because I've heard that this was just beautiful and lovely and blah, blah, blah. And I kind of got it, but I didn't follow this very well. I didn't understand most of this book as I was reading it. I didn't understand the point of it. I didn't understand how the characters were going to come together. It took a very, very long time for that to happen. And when it did, I guess I kind of got it. But I was left feeling very underwhelmed by this. There were just some plots that didn't, or some storylines within these characters that didn't make sense. It jumped around a lot, especially with one of the characters, a young girl. It jumped around in her life a lot, and I didn't get the relevance of why they were telling some backstories on this girl when it didn't matter to the overall story. So I don't know. I didn't love it. I did give it 3 stars, and the writing is beautiful. So 100% I get that with the writing. The writing was gorgeous, but it just wasn't my favorite. So yeah. The next book that I picked up is TheOne by Kara Cass, and this is book 3 in the Selection trilogy. In this whole series, there are 5 books total, but the last 2 books follow a different character, and it's kind of a continuation of the story. So the main trilogy is the trilogy that follows America. So that is what I completed this month, and I really enjoyed this one. I gave this one 5 stars, and it really tied up the entire thing very, very nicely. There were some very heartbreaking moments. There were some things that really took me by surprise. I didn't expect things to go the way that they were going. And a lot of action, which I was really surprised about and pleasantly surprised. I really enjoyed that. And yeah, but there were a couple parts that just kind of broke my heart. But at the same time, when it ended, I was very, very happy, and I thought it ended really, really nicely. And I am excited to read the next 2 books in the series to go ahead and finish it out. So I'll probably be doing that here pretty soon. But if you have not checked out the Selection series, I highly recommend it. Very good, very easy, just really nice, good fun reads. And the last book that I completed in the month of May is Charm and Strange by Stephanie Kuhn. And this is a YA, kind of a psychological thriller mystery type book. So this follows a young boy named Andrew, and he is very troubled. He's kind of a split personality type thing. And it's very interesting because you're seeing things from both of his personalities that are happening, and he doesn't remember. It's definitely one of those things where he's not remembering what he does until he kind of snaps to it, and then he goes, oh my gosh, what have I done? So you definitely see that happening throughout this book, and he feels very misunderstood by everybody. He's not really relating to anybody. He ends up meeting a girl who's kind of understanding where he's coming from and interested in finding out, you know, about him. So you kind of see him build a little bit of a friendship with her. So that's very interesting. The big thing about this is that as I was reading it, you know, I was enjoying it, and then something big happened, and it really brought together why Andrew is the way he is, and it really shocked me. I did not expect anything like that to happen in here. I'm not going to give it away, but it really made me just kind of jolt and go, oh my gosh, I did not picture something like that happening at all. So it was very interesting. Very interesting character dynamics and very interesting relationships in here, and nothing is really as it seems, which is very good. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. I only took a star off because it did take a little bit to kind of get to the meat of everything, but I still enjoyed it. So it didn't take away my enjoyment from it, but it did take a little while to get there. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this one. And the book that I am currently reading, I ended the month of May reading it. I'm still in the middle of it, is The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. This is the first book in her Farseer trilogy, which I am starting. I am currently 126 pages into it. This is very dense, and I was not expecting that. I knew it was a high fantasy and an adult fantasy, so I was expecting it to be kind of stronger content, but I did not expect it to be so dense, and I'm not sure why. So when I picked this up, I am enjoying it, but I'm realizing I think it's something I'm going to have to take my time with. So I'm doing the Hop-Along Read-Along with Samantha over at Novels and Nonsense, and she's hosting this really huge Hop-Along Read-Along for all of her books, so we're reading through all of them. And she's doing 2 books a month, and I'm not 100% sure I can keep up with that, to be honest with you. It's not like completely timed, I guess you could say. I mean, you can take your time with it, but there is Goodreads groups discussions, and I think there's going to be some video discussions and things like that going on with it as well. So I kind of wanted to keep up with that, but we're going to have to see how it goes, because this is something I think that's going to take me a little bit longer to get through than I was expecting. It's not going to deter me at all. I still really want to read this entire thing, so I'm going to. I just don't know if I'll be like exactly on time with the group, but we'll see how it goes. So yeah, this one I'm currently reading. Okay guys, that's it for me. That is what I read in the month of May, and I'm really happy with everything I read. There was only one I read that I didn't necessarily love, but everything else was really great, and I really enjoyed everything, so I was pretty happy with that. And that's going to be it for me. So leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you read in the month of May, and I will talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day. Bye.